What up, guys? Jason Guyman here with PressureWashHelp.com, king of pressure washing. And tonight I want to talk about one of probably the most important thing to do and not sound like somebody that is not very smart. And this is probably what I see can be the hardest for a lot of people getting started in the pressure washing world, getting starting into the world of pressure washing, any service business, and that is, how do I talk on the phone and not sound stupid? How can I answer the phone? What are the importance of answering the phone? You know how many times I've called businesses and I don't get no answer. And you know what I do? I go right on to the next person, and most people do that. And so tonight I have what I would call an expert on the phone of, this is what they do. This is a service they offer. Yes, it's a service they're offered, but we're going to talk a little bit about script. I've heard people come in and I've listened to phone calls before and they'll be like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, who's yeah? What am I calling for? What am I doing? The importance of this stuff, and then the next thing is they'll say, yeah, I do that. I need your name, number, email address, phone number, driveway, whatever, blah, 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 blah. And it's not how we want to sound professional. And so that's what I want to really focus on, is how do we sound professional on the phone, things that we need to say, things that we don't need to say, and all of those great things. So now I know I just went over a lot, and that's what we're going to go over. Michelle, we've had some issues getting on, so we didn't even have time to talk much. And so I've talked to her, and I met her in person last year, and I've talked to her, and she's very good at answering the phone and the script side of things. And so, Michelle, tell me a little bit about who you are, like kind of where you're from, and if you got kids and all of that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. Well, Jason, thanks for letting me have me on today. I'm excited. But the way we're starting, where there's not a lot of prep. That's actually the best training for how to talk on the phone, because you have to know enough in your head before that anything that people throw at you, you're gonna be able to handle. Impromptu. It's all so. We'll be shining today. But yeah. So I work with Jill's office. We're a virtual receptionist firm. We answer calls for a variety of small businesses, primarily in the home service industry. So have a lot of fun. We talk on the phone all day, so we do know a little bit about what works and what doesn't. But yeah, I love working there. I've been there about 5 years now. I've got 4 little monkeys at home. They're lots of fun, and 2 boys, 2 girls. So we love to go out, explore. We love nature. We're living in Utah, so we love the mountains. Love to go play outside.
Has it started snowing there yet?
We got like a little drift a few weeks ago, but nothing. It doesn't look like Christmas yet.
Got
Which
it.
I'm fine with snow till January, and then I'm ready. I'm ready to get out there in the sun again. I love kayaking, so I just like winter for a little bit. But yeah, it will come. It will come.
Awesome, awesome. So let's start off at the beginning. Why is it important to answer our phones in the beginning or
Sure.
any
So
time in
I mean,
business?
well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's as you mentioned, Jason. It's kind of a make or break type of relationship, especially if it's a new customer. If you're putting out Google ads, or you've got Facebook ads, or you're doing any kind of marketing or advertising, you're spending money to get that phone to ring. And if you don't pick up that phone, it's like you're throwing away, 200, 300, 400, 500. What's your average job? You're throwing that down the toilet, because they're most likely going to call someone else. They very rarely will leave a voicemail, and even if they do, they're probably still going to call until they can talk to someone live. You'll be amazed how many times we've had people who call in, and we answer a lot of overflow. So if our partners can't answer the phone right away, it comes over to us, and then we kind of pick up whatever they might miss. And how many times we'll get a caller just say, "You're the first person that picked up. I've called 5 different people." And I've even heard them say, "You're actually more expensive than I wanted to pay, but I want to do business with someone that I know is going to be responsive. And so the fact you picked up the phone and these other people won't, I want to do business with you." And it's a real thing, because you want to know if someone's. I mean, I can say it from my own end. When I'm calling around, I needed a plumber the other day, And I called around, couldn't get anyone. And so the one I finally answered, I thought, well, I want them to answer if I can have a problem. So if they're not answering when I'm trying to pay them, are they going to answer after I paid them and I need them to come back and fix what they did? So, I mean, people pay attention to that stuff.
Absolutely.
Um,
And that's something that, when we talk, and even when Bobby Walker talks about this, of the little things, answering your phone is just the start of the little thing. When we answer our phone, that is probably the first interaction besides our website that we're having with this customer. And if we don't answer the phone when we're doing that, again, what are you going to do when they call and they're calling and they're giving you down the road because you did crappy work or something? At that point, they're not going to want to use you. You're going to get a bad review, all of that kind of thing. So answering the phone, I agree 100% is is somebody wrote, man, she talks fast. And that's probably not going to be a good conversation because I get excited and I get talking fast too.
I'll try to slow down.
But what about that? Is that a good thing to talk fast on the phone, or is it a better thing? Do you know what the ratio of is on talking on the phone is? Is it better to talk fast, better to talk slow, listen to your customer to see how they are, all of that kind of thing?
I think a lot is matching. So much of conversation is just you want to match their personality, you want to match their pace, tone of voice. It's a lot of just okay. Are they very straight to the point? Do they want to get this job booked right away? I'm not going to diddle daddy and shoot the breeze with them. I just want to get it done. Then there's other people who they kind of want to talk more about. I want to tell you about why I need you to come and clean my carpets, how my kid, spilled gunk all over the floor, and I want to tell you this story. So it's a lot just matching what they're doing. I think the biggest thing is just your tone and how you sound, just like the inflections in your voice. You actually can hear a smile. It's amazing. They've done actual scientific research that you really can hear a smile in someone's voice. And our brains actually think in pictures. So when we hear something, we picture it. So if you hear a smile, you actually picture a smile. It produces those endorphins. They've actually found it's just like eating a piece of chocolate. It can be as effective as eating a piece of chocolate when you hear someone smile on the phone, that it's actually sending those endorphins over the phone to the caller. So, I mean, little things like that make a difference.
So you
But yeah,
mean
definitely pace.
so you mean I got to smile when I'm answering the phone and nobody's actually watching me?
It makes a difference. It really does. We actually have a mirror in front of all our receptionist desks just to remind them, hey, smile on the phone. You want to, I mean, it's like you were saying, it's all about that positive first impression. And so, it's like if you had an actual physical store, and you are having someone sit in the front of the store to greet people coming in, you'd want them to smile. You want them to feel welcoming. We're so glad you called. And so those little things like smiling and things like that actually do make a difference.
So talking about when we first call in, what are some of the key things that we want to do in the very beginning of our conversation?
So first of all, say your company name. I know that's a basic thing, but like you said, Jason, sometimes people should be like, hey, hello, yeah. Make sure they know they called who they're trying to call. Pressure cleaner, make sure they know this is a pressure cleaning company that I'm calling. So right from the beginning, say your company name, that they're grateful they called in. How can I help you today? Just something pleasant like that. Pretty standard, but at the same time, some people don't think to do it.
Is
And
it good
so
to is it good to put our first name in there also when we're answering that first in that very beginning?
absolutely. So two keys to the beginning of any call are number one, well, actually, I should say three. Say your company name, say your name so that, they're starting to form that relationship, and then get their name. A human's favorite word in the universe is their own name. It just builds that, it actually instantly builds that connection and that relationship when you hear someone say your name. And so get what their name is, and then use that name throughout the call. Actually say their name. Again, that's going to help create that bond. And you're trying to create a relationship with this customer that you're hopefully going to have for years.
Now, that's a good point because a lot of times that might be hard to do, especially if we're not used to getting their name and saying that name. And I understand, I see what you're saying because it does make sense to, when I say this person's name, then it's becoming, again, it's about the little things. We're building that relationship from the get go, and so that's awesome. And so after we get their name, obviously, and we're going to first tell them our name and that kind of thing. And we're going to let them know what services, or we're going to ask what their problem is, correct? Because we need to see if we can obviously do that. Is that kind of that important thing then?
Oh, absolutely. Yep. So yeah, after you give out your name, your intro, get their name, yeah, find out what the problem is. They'll probably want to tell you that before they give you any contact information, just because again, they want your. It takes trust for them to give any part of personal information away. So first, they want to make sure, hey, is this something you can help with? This is what I'm needing. And even if you don't want to get too far in depth of what, the details of their service yet, at least letting them relay what they're needing help with and then say, yeah, I'd be happy to help you out with that. Let me just get some information from you so we can get that started for you,
And
whether it's an estimate or whatever.
and that's a good thing too to say too is yes, we can help you with that. That's in, again, we are going down the road of asking those questions, correct? And most of the time when we're asking these questions, we're asking yes questions. Is that correct?
Yes. You want them, I mean, it's a basic sales tactic. You want people to be agreeing with you. You want them to say yes as many times as possible. But starting out with, you want to be really conscious of positive phrasing throughout the call. Because it's so much of being on the phone. It really is basic sales and it's really psychology of to get people to become emotionally committed to your company and also just to feel like they're making a good decision by doing business with you. And so lots of yeses, lots of positive language really helps with that.
Because when we get them saying yes, if we do give them a price, what do they generally say at that point, right?
Right? They're just used to saying yes now. They're not going to say no anymore. Get it out of their vocabulary.
And
But
that's the beauty of doing sales and knowing sales. And again, this is why we don't have to do a lot of sales on here. Obviously we're going to talk a little bit later of how we don't even, even if you're doing an answering service and you're sending it through House Call Pro or Responsive Bid, we don't even have to ask them that price pressing, or I can't even talk. We don't even have to ask them the question about pricing at that point because we're just going to get their information. So, talking about getting their information, what information do we have to usually get for us to be successful at the end of the day?
well, hopefully you've gathered their name already, obviously, and you're using that in the conversation. Then you obviously need. We always verify their phone number just because you want to make sure you got it correct. Maybe there's a better number to reach them. Maybe they're calling from work, and you want to make sure you have their cell. So make sure you grab or at least verify their phone number. And then obviously you need their address. Make sure it's within your service area. If people are hesitant to give you their full address at first, at least getting, zip code, whatever they are comfortable giving. But if they are, if you're moving along that you're trying to get them a price or you're trying to book them a job, then at that point they should have no problem giving you their full address. And then email, that's always a fun one. So the secret with getting email is you need to give them a reason that you're asking for it. People sometimes will guard their email like as close as their social security just because they don't want to get spammed. And so some people are fine with it, but some can be a little more hesitant. And so just an easy way to, just disarm any hesitation is just give them a reason. So we'll just say something like, can we grab your email to send you the estimate
Right.
or, give them a reason to get it. And then usually it's like they aren't even thinking about, oh, I shouldn't give it. It's just part of the protocol.
So
Um,
somebody asked here a question. George did. Are catchphrases good to use?
Catchphrase. So what instance? I'm trying to think of you saying like just. As you're gathering the information, just in way, I'm trying to understand what exactly is
Yeah, I
asking
don't
that.
get that one. But somebody else asked a question, and I think it was kind of what you were on the line of what are some good positive phrases that we can be talking about, or what are some good positive phrases? Because obviously we want to be talking positive on the phone. We don't want to be
Right.
talking negative. So, what are some good positive phrases that we could use?
Sure. So we call it a wow phrase at Jill's office. So all of our receptionists, it's like, okay, so the phone call is like a sandwich, right? So the beginning of the phone call, you've got your bread, and you want to make sure you always have some kind of wow positive phrase right at the beginning of the call. Then the meats where you're getting all their information, giving out pricing, maybe scheduling, and at the end you also always want to have a wow positive phrase, kind of like make this beautiful sandwich. So and make it delicious to eat, right? So at the beginning, what's a good positive wow phrase? You want to just thank them for calling. Thank them for choosing you. Thank them, you made it, reassure them they made a great choice that they called in. So even just, you answer the phone, hello, thank you for calling Pressure Washing USA. How can I help you today? They say what they're needing. I say, oh, great. Yeah, we'd be happy to help you with that. I'm so glad you called in. Just something that you're reassuring them they made a good decision and that we're so grateful they called in. So it's really simple. You don't have to go in some long thing, but just something positive to get started off on the right foot and make them feel good that they called you, that you made a good choice.
So, when we go asking for all their information, their name, phone number, do we just want to go, hey, can I have your name, address, email, phone number, or how do we want to break that down?
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, you want to flow naturally. Everyone has kind of their own way to say things. So, I mean, with scripts, I'm always a firm believer and give guidelines. But as far as like word for word, find your own lingo because you want to make it sound natural. So, I mean, typically just, can I have your phone number just in case we get disconnected? Or let me just verify I have the right phone number. Can we text this? Asking things like that. And then where are you needing to get this service? What's your address? Things like that. And then what's the best email to send the estimate to? So you just kind of, kindly not, yeah, what's your address? What's your name? Just kind of kindly and smoothly guide the call through the information and thank them in between. Okay, thanks so much, Mary, and use their first name again. And then what's a good email where we can send the estimate? So just make it really natural, thanking them along the way and make sure you verify as you're getting that information that you heard the email spelling correct. So one little letter can make such a difference, and then you're like, shoot, I can't. My email's bouncing. So
So,
those
what
little
is a
details
good
are really
way? So, the way we make sure, just to make sure that we don't get the wrong email, do we want to read it back to them? Is that a good habit to do, or are we just going to guesstimate? Because I would say this is probably the number one reason why people won't get your email. Is that correct?
right. Absolutely. I would always repeat it back, just the spelling to make sure. I mean, even like a simple name, they could spell Jason, Jayson. I mean, you never know. So make sure that you spell it back to them. And then make sure even with like B's and D's and F and S that you use those phonetics. I mean, you can make up your own on the fly. Is that F as in Frank, D as in dog? Just you want to make sure you get it right because the whole process of being able to stay in touch with your customers and send them the information, you got to make sure you got a good email. So definitely take the time to verify that. Really, you should repeat back all the information, but absolutely, I would always say the email just because you want to make sure you got that right.
Now, what are some ways to help us get this phone to, or I guess let's go back a little bit important. How important is it to answer our phone on every phone call?
Oh gosh, 100%. You would be amazed. We called out to 100 window cleaners, pressure washers across the US, just random. We went on Google, found 100 window cleaning, pressure washing companies from out east, out west, and we just called them just to see what would happen. Only, oh gosh, we have to look up.
25%.
Yeah, I was going to say, what are you going to guess? That's actually, that you say 45% actually answered.
No, I said 25% actually.
Oh, 25.
I'm not,
Whoa, you're close.
I'm not even
27.
giving, it's
27. No,
27%.
you're pretty close. Only 27. Okay, guys, 27%. That's ridiculous. So if you called 10 pressure washing companies, maybe three answered out of those 10, maybe three. Okay, so what does that say? If you're answering the phone, you're ahead of 70% of the other pressure washers out there. And you're going to beat your competition because you're going to take their leads
Now,
because
did
you're
you all leave a message and see if they would call you back?
did only one call back.
Out of
And
how many? A hundred pressure
100.
washers.
Yeah,
Only
and so
20.
100, we left 73 messages. Yeah, one call back. It's ridiculous. And only, okay, of the ones that answered, we were talking about name, only 3% of them asked for our name. Like, that's, again, I'm like, really? And I think only one asked for an email. Like,
And
it's,
that is why I have you on here tonight, because I don't have you on here because this is something I know a lot of people struggle with. And this is probably the number one basic thing you have to do. Because if you don't, first off, answer your phone, and then if you don't return a phone call, then what's the deal of even starting a business at the end of the day? Because you're going to go out of business at the end of the day. That's what's going to happen to you. Because if you won't answer it, you're going out of business. And I understand that it's hard sometimes to answer the phone. I understand that. I understand it, and it's hard. I'm washing a house. It's more important. So you're telling me washing that house is more important than getting that $10,000, $20,000 job that you just pissed away down to the road because you didn't answer the phone. And so this is definitely something that you have to do. Jason always says, pick up your phone. And you're exactly right, pressure washing up there. Because if you don't pick up your phone, it does us no good. And just like Michelle said earlier, you could be paying. I mean, I was talking on my Zoom call. He paid $2,000 this past month. So if you're willing to pay $2,000 in a month and not answer your phone, what's the purpose at the end of the day? So answering your phone is very important. Not only answering it, but knowing what to talk about on the phone too is, and that's kind of where we're headed. So when I asked for their, like I said, the one that I did, it would be like, I need your name, no, phone number, address, email, and I always tell people, and this is, and you might correct me if I'm wrong, but it's kind of like a date. It's kind of like a
it
date.
really is. Yeah.
We're getting to know the person. We're getting to do this. On the first date, when I first meet the person, I'm not going in for a French kiss. That's not what I'm doing. What I want to do, when I go, I want your name, address, phone number. You might as well just, because how many people out there are really going to give that information at that point?
Right. No, it's exactly true. It's all about you got to build the relationship, and it starts by just being friendly, putting your best impression foot forward, gathering that information, but not asking for too much too soon.
Right. And so, what are some other good tactics on the phone? Of obviously, we had talked a little bit about matching the tone and stuff like that. What are some other good tactics to do with?
Yeah, absolutely. So we talked about, gathering all their information, verifying to make sure you got it spelled right, positive tone of voice, kind of, being really grateful they called in. And then, getting, obviously, then at that point, you're ready to get more information about the job. And this is kind of where, depending on how you typically handle a call, we do everything from just taking a message, gathering information to, okay, let's give you a price over the phone. If you're using Responsibid or something that you can just give them a quote right over the phone for their job, or with whatever software you're using, go for it. Or if it's to schedule an in-person estimate, or if it's, hey, I've got to do, Google Earth, map it out, and then we'll give you a call back to give that to you. So you want that next part is, again, the meat of it, where you're going to really find out exactly what they're needing. If you can give pricing over the phone, do that. And then as you do that, really explain what sets you apart. And a great thing to do with that, especially if you've got some lowballer competition, is you tell them what the other people aren't including and what price points they're not telling you about. This is all inclusive. We're not going to come out there and we're going to add on, all these extra little things. That's really your time to shine and really sell yourself as a company and what makes you different. Maybe how your processes are different. Maybe use different types of products. And again, don't make it too salesy. Try to make it just like a conversation. and just say, just so you're aware, this is how we do it. This is our normal process. And again, I wouldn't go too long in depth in case you can tell, unless they ask a lot of questions. And then if they are, go more in depth. But just prepare like a 30-second to a minute explanation on what your process is and what kind of makes you different than your competition. And because that's your opportunity to really sell them.
So, what is a good average phone call?
So it kind of depends on what you can do on the phone call. Like if you can do everything from, get their information to get them booked. I say when we at our receptionist place, if someone's using ResponsiBid, we can usually do that really well. It has Pro too, a lot of the systems, but with pressure wash in particular, ResponsiBid works really well. That we, can do everything from gathering their information, getting them pricing, asking some more questions about their home to get them that appropriate pricing, let them know about the different packages, and get them booked. You're looking at, oh gosh, anywhere between 7 to 10 minutes, honestly, for that call. Again, it depends how in depth you are, how many questions you have about the home, how many prices, packages you have. If it's more just I'm gathering information, you can get off in less than, in 3 to 5 minutes, you can get what you need. So it just depends on how in depth you can get on the call. And then it also depends on how many questions they have, obviously. But I would plan, for a good quality call to get everything you need. I mean, it should take probably at least 3 minutes minimum just to gather everything you need and to give basic information out to them about why, they should do business with you.
So, is it good to try to schedule a time on our phone call before giving them a pricing quote?
To schedule a job or schedule?
I talked to somebody not too long ago, and he said, and I've actually had some other people had some good success with it. While I'm looking this up, we have next Wednesday is our next date. In kind of setting that scarcity of, hey, we're booked out to here, so if you want to, and then that way, when you give the price, then they can just say yes to everything. Or what's your thought behind that?
Yeah, I think if that works for you, it's a great approach. If that, again, it's just if it that naturally can flow for you to do that, getting some sort of commitment from them. And again, when you communicate something like that about scarcity, it also lets them know, hey, we're a good company because we're booked. And so let's make sure we grab you a spot before we run out. So I think approach like that can be great. Some people might be hesitant. So again, you can try that. And then if they're hesitant, then okay, well, let's look at the pricing first and then get you booked. But no matter what you do, you always want to have a call to action sometime by the end of the call, meaning you need to have some way you're progressing the relationship, whether it's scheduling the actual job, that's ideal, or if it's just scheduling an estimate. So you're getting some commitment from them that they're going to remove the relationship along with you. If you're not able to schedule, those are the ideal situations. Then at least, letting them know, okay, I'm going to send you some more information. I'm going to send you a bid. Let them know what you're going to do next to progress the relationship and then what you're waiting from them. Give us a call back. Let them know the next to do. So they, know, again, it's a dating relationship. Let's set up the next date. Let's make sure that we're progressing this.
I like that a lot, and I want to hit on that hard because that is a good point of not only telling them our service, but telling what's going to happen. If we're scheduling in person, we're going to say Jason is coming out we'll meet you tomorrow. We'll walk around the house and let them know what you are doing. Or if you're going to give them a bid online, all right, after I get all this information, I will give you this. I will send you an email. On that email, we'll have a quote. If you have a follow-up system, which I would highly recommend you have a follow-up system, and if that follow-up system is saying tomorrow, I will give you a call to make sure you get that bid. Because what I had found in my own personal business was 3 out of 10 never got their bid. Rather, I spelled it wrong, it went in the spam folder, or they didn't know it was for me. So out of 10 quotes, 7 got open, 3 didn't. So by saying that, tomorrow I will give you a call, or tomorrow, or even if you need to, make sure you check the spam, and it will be coming from ABC Pressure Washing, or mine was actually ProServe. So that's why a lot of times it didn't know it was coming from me, because who's ProServe? I thought you were Pressure Wash Cincinnati. And so these are some important things to remember to make sure that your emails are getting open. And again, it comes down to the little things, and the little things make big things.
Yep, that's so true. It's so true. Everything with the phone. But I really like what you hit on there, Jason. I would always give, a time. That is so important. Of whatever that next step in the relationship is, put a time to it so that they know what to expect. And then I love the part too about putting a name to it if possible. So again, it makes it personable. If you're telling the next steps to, actually coming out and doing the job, let them know, they'll be wearing uniforms. It comes in this truck. Like, let them know a few things again to make them feel comfortable, because they're inviting a stranger to their home. You want to feel like family to them. So let them know what's going to happen with that situation. I think another great thing right during this current pandemic is maybe give them a little heads up about your COVID practices, maybe to ease any concerns that might be there. We wear masks, just so you are aware. Give them some heads up about that as well. All our techs take their temperature before they come out to the job, make sure we're safe. Because again, that's going to build that trust to know that you really care about them, their family, and their health's important to you as much as, cleaning their home.
And that's a good point too, because even this business could be considered a touchless business, because you don't even need to come out at this point. If you're scared, that if they're so scared, we don't even need to talk to them at the end of the day. Here it is, we're done. Here's your bills, thank you, and sayonara, and we
Yeah,
go
and
on.
explain that process to them. You won't even need to come out at all. We come out, we'll be out this day at this time. We'll get the job done. We'll be somewhere within this window. And then, however your payment process is after the job, again, that's just going to make it all easier for them. But if you do have any questions and you want to ask the tech something, like, by all means, you're welcome to. But if you prefer just to make it, no touch, no problem. We can definitely take care of that for you.
And talking about the COVID thing, is that the other thing is we are using bleach, and we are a little over what the recommendation thing is. So everything will be sanitized when it's all done. So that's a beautiful thing about having your house. It's not only clean, but it is sanitized. And just little things like that can make a big difference, right?
It can. And again, that goes back to reassuring them they're making a good choice. That's another great way, that end of the sandwich way to congratulate them again for calling them and, hey, you made a great choice. I'm so glad you're making this decision. There's so many families that are so glad, because not only is their home clean, but they know it's more sanitized and safe, especially during times like these. So we're so glad you called in today, and we're so happy to get out there and get that taken care of for you. So again, reassure them that you're grateful they called. You can't wait to get the job done for them, work more with them, and that you're grateful to be able to do this for their home and for their family or their business or whatever it is, to make it even a safer place.
And that's a good thing too, of pointing out, of being positive, being, again, you had that smile on your face, and people can tell that at the end of the day. I know we talked about it in the beginning, but how to have that positive reinforced smile on your face goes a long way,
It
right?
does. And it goes a long way for referrals too, because if they, it's all about building that relationship. So if they have that positive relationship with you from the minute, that first impression, when they call in, and then, when the texts come out and there's that positive impression, they're going to refer you to their friends more likely, because it was just lots of positivity through the whole experience. And if something goes wrong, that's when you load the positivity on even more, to make sure that you make up whatever might have gone wrong, to again leave that positive impression that if something does go wrong, this is what we do to fix it.
Awesome, awesome. So, what about following up? How important is it to follow up with people on a phone call?
So, I mean, Jason, you already hit on one a little bit ago, where, some of the estimates, they might end up in spam. Maybe you did get a letter wrong. You'll be amazed how many times you verify and people verify their email wrong. It does happen. So, making sure that if they don't book, right after you call them within a few days, especially with something like pressure washing. You want to stay on them, because they're going to probably make a decision pretty soon. So you want to stay on them, make sure they got the email, even if it's just a call to confirm. Did you receive the estimate? Did you have any questions about it? Make sure that they know that there's someone to talk to and that can answer those questions. I guarantee your competition is not doing follow-up, most likely, at probably any stage. And there's so many important stages to do it. So again, it's just going to give you that competitive edge. Call, make sure they get the follow-ups. I can't tell you how many jobs we book off that call. It's amazing. And this is why. This is what happens. So, okay, so the wife calls in typically, sometimes the husband, but I'm just giving like a typical scenario, power washing, okay? So the wife calls in, she's trying to get some quotes. We give her a quote on the phone. She says, okay, you know, and sometimes sometimes it usually is actually legitimate. Let me talk to my husband about, we'll get back to you. Because, you know, if it's a higher price tag, they want to make sure. So, you know, you say, oh, absolutely, yeah, we'll get that email over to you just so you can go through it. If you have any questions, give us a call back. They usually don't always call back. So if we call back a day or two later and we talk to her, she'll say, oh, I'm so glad you called. I actually had a few other questions, or my husband had questions. The fact that you're the one calling instead of those other 3 people she got quotes by, you're going to close that deal. Because again, you're building that trust. You cared enough to follow up with her. You cared enough to see if she has any other questions. And it's just easy. Even if you were priced a little higher, she's talked to you. You've now had 2 conversations. That relationship's that much further progressed along. You've built that trust. She's probably going to book the job. And that's what usually happens. I'm so glad you called. I had a few more questions. You answer the questions. Boom, it gets booked. So that's a really important time to do it. It's just right after you give an estimate. But then it's important to call, you know, after you do the job and make sure that they were satisfied. Before you send them a review, make sure that they were happy with the experience. See if there was any problems with the tech. Make sure, you know, that everything got taken care of well. And then if it did, you know, ask them, would you be okay if we, you know, send you a thing to leave a review? Again, it's building that relationship that we care enough to check in and make sure we did good work. And if something did go wrong, fix it. So you can, you know, it'll either fester. There's 2 types of customers. They're either not going to say anything and they're just going to be bugged and never call you again and never refer you. Or you have the ones that are going to make a big fuss about it and leave you a bad review. So either way, you want to make sure that if you're following up to that so that if there is a problem, you're fixing it as soon as possible. And then the next stage is just every quarter, every 6 months, every year, whatever it may be, make those follow-up calls to tell them
What you mean? You're
time to
supposed
get
to
refund.
call you're supposed to call your contact list every year, or your past customers, or every 6 months? Why would I want to do that for?
Right? I know. You know, it's amazing how much we book off those follow-up calls. Again, it's incredible because people aren't always, it's not always fresh on their mind that I'm due. It's like the dentist. I know I'm supposed to go every 6 months, but usually it takes them sending me a postcard or calling me to remind me I'm due for my cleaning. Oh yeah, I got to go do that. Well, same thing with their home. It's due for their next cleaning. You're just doing a courtesy. You're helping them by saying, hey, you're due for your next cleaning. When would you like us to get scheduled for that? So again, you're actually helping them by rebooking them. So keep you fresh on their mind. You know, emails are important, texts are important, get that follow-up going, but sometimes a phone call is what can really seal the deal to actually get them on the calendar because you're right there. You're actually making the effort to call them. It's easy for them to just book it right then.
Awesome, awesome. All right, so we've been talking for 37 minutes. I guess we'll get off here now because we got a lot of people asking other questions about what services and that, and we'll get to that. I promise you, we'll get there. I wanted to give you all good information from an expert because that's one thing I can barely talk on here, let alone a phone. You know, and that isn't a good thing. Now, I know we're going to have a little bit of difference on this because we had a little bit of difference, but on my side of things, I've seen it work really good. So, which is better, a man answering the phone or a female answering the phone?
Oh man, you're gonna get me in trouble with this question. You know, it's funny because we actually just did our own live on this the other day because we used to, well, we still do. People will call in and say, you know, is it all girls who answer your phones? And for a long time it was just because that's who applied, but we actually have recently hired some male receptionists. It doesn't matter the gender. It honestly doesn't. I've talked to people who said, I need a woman because people want a woman answering the phone. That's who they're going to trust. Some people are in that mindset. I personally don't think that's true. I think it's just all about what they sound like on their phone. It's their tone of voice. It's how positive they sound. Whether you're male or female, as long as you have a good phone voice, and if you don't hire someone, I mean, if you don't have that phone voice, it's okay to hire that out. You know, whatever you're weak in, delegate that out. But just make sure they've got a great positive voice. that there's not going to be a lot of distractions in the background, loud noises, things like that. So it can sound professional. And so it can sound that you're actually focused when you're talking to them. But as far as gender, I really don't think it matters as long as they've got the good phone skills.
I agree with the good phone skills, but on the other hand, I've got a lot of guys that have been like, my wife can close 10 times more than I can and make more money and close 10 times as much as I can. So I know I haven't seen one of the guys on here. He's on shift tonight, but I know Jason and a couple other people have said my wife can close way better than I can. And I noticed, and even in my own personal business, the female did a lot better than when the male was on there. But I understand what you're coming at of how they, the phone script and all of that kind of things. So let's talk a little bit about what all Jill Services can do for somebody. Who is Jill? Let's first talk. Who would Jill Services be a good fit with?
Sure. So, there's a few different stages that we can really help. One is, if you're a fairly new business, you maybe don't have the funds yet to hire an in-person receptionist, or any kind of, personal admin where you're going to have to pay them, 12 to 15 bucks an hour. Jill's office is a nice gap filler. I should say that more clearly, because we can just help take that overflow. So again, if you're good on the phone, you like talking to your customers, absolutely. Let them come to you first. I mean, your business, answer those calls. But where we serve you really well is let's take that overflow. Let's make sure that none of those fish, escape out of the net. We're just that extra net behind, you answering the phone to make sure no call gets missed. So what the majority of business owners will do is the calls come to them first, and then we just answer if they don't pick up after a few rings. That way, when you're with another customer, you don't have to be rude because, which customer is more important, the one you're with or the one calling in? Well, they're both important. So make sure you service both of them. You take care of that customer you're with, and then let us take that overflow. So we're great with that, and then growing with you in doing that. We also work with a lot of companies who actually have an office admin, but what happens is usually the office admin gets so busy, she starts missing calls herself because she's doing so many other things. Or what happens when she's on a call? Where does the call go? What happens when she's on lunch? What happens when she's sick? What happens when she takes a vacation? What happens on holidays? What happens before or after hours? So again, even if you have an office admin, it's often helpful to have a service like Jill's office again, just to cover that overflow that you might be missing. And I mean, with as low as 99 bucks a month, it's kind of a no-brainer to have that backup. That one job pays for it. And then we also work with companies that just get so many calls that it's impossible for one person to take them all. So I mean, it requires a team of our receptionists. One of our bigger clients, literally gets hundreds of calls a day. So I mean, we can grow with you at whatever stage you're in, and whatever, as much or little as you need us. We're there for you.
So let's talk a little bit about if Jill's office, what all serve. So I know you can answer the phone, and obviously we talked about that and getting through the script and all that. So I know you work with Responsibid and House Call Pro and a couple other ones. By working through that, what all service can? So basically, if somebody calls, they could go all the way through from answering the phone, giving a quote, and you never even touch it. Is that correct?
Absolutely, yeah. So we can take care of the whole call for you. We're more than just a glorified answering machine. We can give bids, we can schedule jobs, we can schedule estimates, and then we can even help with follow-up calls. We do work with several systems, as you talked about. There's a few others we work with as well. We can work with any online booking link. So if you've got a link on your website, we can work with that and get them booked. A lot just depends on how comfortable you are with delegating certain parts. I know with some people, hey, I just want you to start by taking my phones. I'm not sure if I want you to do pricing or scheduling. Absolutely. I mean, having a live person answer is the most important thing. So we really can do as much or little as you feel comfortable with, or depending on what system you're using and how complicated your pricing and scheduling is. Anywhere from taking a message to all the way, let's get the whole thing booked.
So somebody, I know I'm jumping around because I'm getting some
No
questions
problem.
here from the other side. We got almost 100 people on here. So how does Jill's office handle spam calls billing wise?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. So
I
we
mean,
all,
how many Google My Business calls do you all, or Google, yeah, how many Google
oh
My
my
Business
gosh,
calls do you all get a
right?
day?
Gosh, our Jills are like experts in sniffing those out. They actually are pretty good. So, I mean, we do answer every call that comes in. You can't always tell. But if any calls are under 25 seconds, we do not charge for them. And our receptionists are pretty good about telling right away. Some of them have gotten pretty tricky. So if we're not 100% sure it isn't a sales call, she'll still gather a message. But usually you can tell, you hear all the noise in the background. They probably have an accent, things like that. They're asking for the business owner. So if there are certain things that they're saying, the Jill will just say, we're not interested. Please take us off the list, and then get off that call so it doesn't hopefully incur any charge. But the nice thing is not having to, again, yourself be interrupted when it's just that silly sales call. Or you not knowing if it's a sales call or a real call, just to make sure that all those calls get answered, and then we can help filter those out so you're not having to call anyone back that was just the sales. But yeah, no charge for any calls under 25 seconds.
So I'm going to ask some questions because I'm getting some rapid fire ones in here. So, and we'll go deeper in a little bit, but how does Jill's office deal with answering home advisor, the ones that say you have a lead, not the actual customer calling?
Yeah, sure. So home advisors, you can either forward the calls over to us or you can send the emails. Either way, we'll either do an outbound call with an email, or if it's an inbound call with that home advisor call, the Jill receptionist, she'll listen to the message, she'll gather the information, and then push, I can't remember if it's one or three to connect, and then try to connect with that customer and get them booked.
Okay, good. All right. So obviously, how with the side of responsibility or that other the bidding side of things, responsibility obviously I can do by square footage. Will the Jill look up the square footage and then put that in there? Is that how that works?
I mean, we typically go by what the customer says. Sometimes they'll Google it a little bit, but usually they'll just go by what they say, to gather that information, whatever questions you have there in response to bid, and we can work with you to make sure the questions will work well with our receptionists. But with pressure washing, there usually isn't a lot of problems. Most people know their square footage or roughly around it. If they're not 100% sure, she'll Google it a little bit, and then also she can, in the message she sends to you, she can let you know they weren't 100% sure about this, just so that if you need to adjust a little bit, you can. But usually it isn't too far off based off what they say.
Awesome, awesome. So with Jill's office, I know I'm kind of giving you a bunch, but what is the advantage of using Jill's office if we're not answering our phone 100%? What's the real reason why we want to do it for?
Oh, sure. Well, easy math. Okay. So, Jason, what would you say is the average price of a pressure washing job?
Our
I mean,
jobs
I know.
was $450-$500.
All right. So, the average business owner misses 2.5 calls a day. So, if those were, and obviously some of them might be sales. So, if you just take 2 calls a day, on average that you might miss, that's $1,000 a day. You take that over the week, you're looking at a $5,000 a week of potential lost business. A month, 20 grand. A year, you're looking at almost, $250,000. Over, 5 years, over $1 million just by being average and missing a couple of calls a day. So it's just that safety net of knowing that every single call that comes in will get an answer. And Jason, the other thing I think is the amount of stress that we see like decrease in business owners. I mean, kudos to you guys. I just like how much pressure you're under, no pun intended, with pressure washing, how many hats you're wearing. It's incredible. I mean, and look, Sunday night, and you're doing business, you're trying to learn. Kudos to you. But it's like it's so much pressure. So just knowing that, hey, if I miss this call, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna cost me a few bucks, but that customer's gonna get taken care of, and it might book a $500 job from that $5 call. I mean, it's worth it just for the stress alone. We joke all the time too that we're actually in the business of saving marriages, because like the fact you can actually turn your phone off, take your wife to lunch, or when you get home, spend that time with your kids, go to that soccer game, whatever it may be, and again, know that your calls are taken care of. Go on vacation and actually take a vacation, actually turn your phone off for a day. The amount of like mental space and how much better you can do your job when you come back because you had a little bit of a break from thinking about it 24/7 is incredible. So, I mean, obviously it's going to make you more money. We're going to book you more jobs, but it's also going to decrease your stress level because that's one less, glass ball that you got to keep in the air that, hey, someone else is going to help me juggle that. And so just the relief is huge.
So somebody is in here, and he's making sure you're doing well. Brant's in here, so
Uh-oh. Hi, Brant.
says Jill's office does have a sales call blocker built into our system as well. So
That's true. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Brant. So with the phone system that we use, it does any kind of registered teleperformance kind of sales company will get blocked from the system. It gets rid of about 10% of any sales call, so it definitely helps. It's not 100% just because, those sales companies are so tricky and they keep re-registering new numbers, but it does help eliminate a lot of them. And so that helps with that as well.
So obviously we can do on inbound calls. You said you will also do follow-up calls too, correct? If you set up that system, right?
That's right. So, and that's honestly, that's kind of like the secret weapon of Jill's office. I've actually had business owners call that like Jill's office is my secret weapon because we take care of that outbound. I guarantee you that 90, I don't even know, I'm making up this number, but I want to say higher than 95% of business owners do not make follow-up calls. It's just you're putting out fires all day. You don't have time to do that. It's the last thing. It gets pushed to the bottom. It doesn't get done. So again, that's an amazing thing to delegate. Last month we did outbound calls. It was for a roof cleaner. So their price tag, oh gosh, I want to say it was around like $700-800 per job. But it cost $140. We went through this list and we booked over $9,000 worth of jobs. And that was just from doing follow-ups. Those are probably jobs that wouldn't have got booked if we hadn't called. So again, it's just putting extra money in your pocket, doing something that you should be doing that I guarantee you probably aren't. And one less thing you don't have to worry about, but it's going to make you more money by doing it. So you invest a little bit to get a lot more.
If I have Jill's office and I'm using Responsibid, can it automatically, the email that, because I always had an email that went to my assistant, can I make that assistant go straight to that assistant so that they could make that phone call? Is that how that could work?
Right. Yeah. Responsibid's magical with that. We love Responsibid for so many reasons, but especially for that purpose is that you can automate the follow-up. So you don't even have to worry about it. You just set it up in Responsibid that a copy of that email will come to Jill and she just makes those calls and you decide, hey, I want to follow up if I send an estimate and they didn't call back and get booked. I want to follow up this many months later. I want to follow up after the job. Just you determine the stages that you want those follow-ups done. It automatically sends an alert to us and we call. And our outbound Jills, they're actually some of our very best Jills just because it takes even a higher skill set to be able to make that proactive outbound call. And they're phenomenal about closing those jobs.
So, what do you have to do to be a Jill?
You have to be amazing. We're actually really picky about who we hire. Just because we understand it's the front door to your business and it's the first impression. We're all US based. We're based out of Utah. So we don't hire overseas at all. You're not going to have someone with a thick accent. You're not going to have someone that, doesn't know what they're talking about. We, all the things that we talked about today, making sure they've got, good tone of voice, making sure that they sound intelligent on the phone, that they sound professional, that they're super friendly. We do tons of customer service training. All those things are just really important to us. And so we are very picky about who we hire. And then we do find the right person. We train like crazy in customer service, in your system that you're using, in how to talk about pressure washing. So we do a lot of training and are very picky about who we hire.
What about if they called? How does the screen come up to make sure that it's my business? I don't want you saying somebody else's business. How does that happen?
Right. So it's amazing how technology works. So all you have to know is that you get a Jill phone number. You can use it directly if you want for marketing, but most people already have their number. So they'll just forward their calls over to that number. That number, when it comes into our system, your company pops up. That's all that's there for the Jill. She sees all of your scripts, all your call instructions, all your pricing, all your scheduling info. and so she can handle that call in the way that we set up with you of the best way to proceed. So she knows it's your call, and we have a way that she can greet them, and then she can go through a whole call flow of how to handle that call. It's just all you have to do is forward the number over, and it gets to us.
So how much does it get called? How much does it cost? Does it cost by the minute? Does it cost by the call? The flat rate? Logan asked that question.
Yeah, sure. Great question. So we do it off minutes. We have minutes packages. One really nice thing about our service, and again, it's kind of a perk over hiring someone in-house, is you just use us as much as you need month by month. So if you've got some months, I know a lot of pressure washing companies are slowing down, in December and things. You might want to move down to one of our lower packages, but spring hits, move up to our higher one. So you can bump up and down packages month by month as much as you need. And so it's as low as $99 a month for 44 minutes, all the way up to a 500-minute package. And we even have, packages past that if you need it. But it's just a per minute rate. And we also cap our calls. So as I mentioned, we don't charge for any calls under 25 seconds. And if you have any of those chatty Cathys that won't get off the phone, we actually train our Jills. It's I call it what's the exact term? The triangle of efficiency, because there's three things that a Jill has to pay attention to. Is number one, customer service. You want to make sure that you're being friendly and professional. Number two, accuracy. So you want to make sure that you're verifying, you're getting the information that our clients need them to get. And then the third thing is efficiency. So we do want our Jills to be friendly and professional and accurate, but move the call along. So we do training on how to move the call along so that you're not, we don't want them staying on the phone, because we want them answering the next call that's coming in. And so we really train on all those three things. We audit our Jills, that making sure they're doing all those things, and we track, their minutes and their efficiency, their average call time. All those things we're tracking because we know that's important to our clients too, and we want to make sure our Jills are top notch. So that was a long explanation, but if you do get someone that just won't get off the phone, we do cap it at 7 minutes, just because, we don't want, it's happened before that someone, 30 minutes later, all about, the granny's dog and her grandson and everything, her whole life story, and you just can't get her off the phone. We're only going to charge you for a 7-minute call for that. We just eat the rest.
So even at $500, 7-minute calls, that's a lot of calls that you're not going to be able to pay a receptionist to answer that many calls for $500 at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, receptionist, you're looking to pay them, when you think of wage plus taxes, plus if you're doing benefits, plus, all of the Social Security, all the things, you're looking at about, $3,000 to $4,000 a month that you've got to pay someone, probably around, $48,000 to $50,000 a year, which sounds ridiculous. But when you add in taxes and everything like that, and, it does equal to that. Whereas, paying a receptionist $500 a month, it's much more economical.
Let me see. Somebody answered. Let me see what it was. Can they answer Number Barn in Google Voice? I'm sure I'm sure they can just forward it. Correct.
Yeah. I'm actually not familiar. I'll have to look up Number Barn. I haven't heard of that one before, but yeah, we have a lot of clients that use Google Voice. I haven't run into, the only one that I know of that doesn't work, I think, is Slideline, but it's only because it doesn't forward numbers, period. So as long as your phone system can forward a number, it works fine. Cell phones work great. Most VoIP systems, everything pretty much works, because you just have to forward a call over to our number.
Gotcha. Awesome. Somebody put on here, Jason has a Jill. My youngest daughter's a Jillian. So.
Oh, really? I didn't know that, Jason. That makes me like you even more. That's awesome. She's gonna have to come work for us in a few years when she gets old enough.
She's a little mean and ornery. I don't know. So she's got that youngest meanness, I guess. I don't know. So. Awesome. So if they want to, I just put the main thing down in there. Is there any specials that will be coming out or anything along those lines for people that are looking for either to start now or in the spring or anything like that?
Sure. So, right now we price as low as we possibly can, just because we know it's hard to run a small business. So what we've got there is kind of a price, but we are going to do a special. Anyone that signs up, from our conversation tonight, through the end of January, we'll give you an extra $50 off your first month with us. So that will kind of help get you started. Just say that you came from, Jason Guyman Show, and we'll give you that $50 off.
Awesome, awesome. Are the Jill employees set up with the same company call list, or are they random? Like if my customer calls and asking for the last caller, can they get? Can they? I guess what he's. I see what he's saying. So if he calls today and I answer, and then if he calls tomorrow, will it come back to me if I'm open, or will it go? Does it just get randomized?
So it's going to go to whichever Jill's available, just because we want to make sure it gets answered promptly. But what's nice about our system, we've got an app where you get messages after every call to know exactly what happened on the call. On the Jill's end, she has an activity log, so she can see what happened on the previous call when that new call comes in. So if Susan's calling in again, she called in yesterday, today she's ready to book. The Jill can see the notes that the previous Jill, if it wasn't the same one, took the previous day to know exactly what happened. So usually it flows really easily because we sound like we work for your actual company. In fact, we get mistaken to be the wife all the time, but because we sound like we actually work with you. And then if they did talk to someone else, they can easily see what happened in the previous call. So it flows really, really well. There's not usually a lot of choppiness.
Awesome, awesome. Well, we've been on here for an hour, and it's been a fun hour. I hope somebody's learned something out of here. So, again, Michelle, what is the number one thing that people need to do to have a successful business?
Answer your phone. Answer your phone. Whatever it is, get your daughter to answer. Whatever it is, just make sure those calls are getting answered, and then make sure you're smiling on the phone and being happy and positive. And you're gonna, again, that simple little thing, Jason, of just picking up your phone. You're saying the little things that's gonna propel your business in 2021. People they want to, especially with this whole COVID year. We're hungering for connection. We want to. There's so much automation going out there. There's so much, where you don't have to talk to anyone. You can just get things done. So, but people still are hungering for that personal connection. So if they're making the effort to call, they want to actually talk to someone. So give that good impression, give them what they're looking for, and have a real person live there to answer. And that alone, that simple thing will help propel your business.
Absolutely, 100%. Well, Michelle, thank you for coming on here and giving some great information, and I appreciate it. And we're going to end it here, but stay on.